Hey, welcome back, everybody. Moving on to a new chapter. We'll get into some geometry type situations in this chapter for a bit before we move on back to some new things. And in fact, this first section is things you've done before. We're talking about distance and midpoint formulas, things you probably did back in geometry at least, or even sooner. Distance is the distance between 2 points on a plane, and it's the difference of the x's and difference of the y's. You square them, and then take the square root after you sum those. And it's really just using Pythagorean theorem. So if you're given this point over here and then this point here, making a right triangle with these two sides, you find the hypotenuse, and that's all that's going on with this. So I'll do an example for you here and then give you a few practice problems. Example 1, with this between these 2 points, -3, 5, and 4, -1. Again, I like to label up my points. This is x1, y1, x2, y2, so I know where they go. Formula's right up here. I like to see it myself. So d equals square root x2 minus x1. So it's 4 minus -3. 4 minus -3, and that's squared, plus the y2 minus y1. So -1 minus 5. -1 minus 5. That's also squared. All right, so you double subtraction, you have 4 plus 3, so that's going to be 7 squared, -1, -5, -6 squared, and it's still the square root, don't forget that. And then it's 49 plus, and -6 squared is going to be positive 36 as well. So we're going to have the square root of, what, 49, or I'm sorry, yeah, square root of 49 plus 36, and that's going to be, what, 85, square root of 85. There's my distance. And it's a little more than 9, and here's letter C as the answer. So this is straightforward. I'm sure you had them before. I'll give you the answers for the problems I give you if you're still stuck. The other thing we're going to get to is the midpoint formula. Again, given 2 points on a plane, you want to find a point that's exactly halfway between them, both in terms of the x and in terms of the y. And all you're really doing here is you're averaging the x values, and then you're averaging the y values. And then your answer is going to be an actual point. So the answer you get is going to be an x comma y. And so you're going to basically do 2 pieces of work here. One for the x, by averaging the 2 x values, and then averaging the y's. So let's go do an example of that. There's a picture here, which also helps with seeing it. They're giving you the points, -5, 1, for example, 3, and then -1, 6. And they're visually showing you where that midpoint is here. And that's always a good idea when you're doing these problems. Get an idea where that midpoint is. Negative x or positive y's, whatever. So when you get your answer, you know that you're in the ballpark. It's always good to have a good guess. You can kind of tell where they are by where your points are going to be located. Again, so what I like to do is label up x1, y1, x2, y2. And the formula, again, it's pretty simple. I'm up here. You're averaging the 2 x values, then you're averaging the 2 y values. And your answer, it's in parentheses with the comma in here. What you're finding is the midpoint. So you're finding a x comma y. Okay, so you take the x values. It's -5, -1, plus -1, divided by 2. And now I put a nice big comma in the middle there. So I know it's going to be a point x and x comma y. Then I add the y's, which is 1 and 6. 1 plus 6, and divide by 2 for the average. So -6 divided by 2, big comma, 7 divided by 2, I get -3 comma 7 halves. And there you go. So you're just averaging the x and y's. Not too bad, right? Now there's one more thing we're going to do with these. Again, you may have done these back when you had geometry class. Let me show you. So they're going to ask you to find an endpoint, but they are going to give you one of the endpoints and the midpoint. Okay, so what does that mean to you? Well, again, this point here, this m is going to be the midpoint. It's the answer we were seeked on the earlier example. You got to find the missing xy on the other end. All right, so this is how we do that. So again, the form is up above. But the x value, x is going to be 0. That's going to equal the x value of this 3 plus the unknown x. So we'll call it x2. Again, these two values here, these are the x values. These two are the x values for the two endpoints. Well, I don't know the one endpoint. That's why I call it x2. So let me get rid of those things. And of course, I'm dividing by 2 here yet. And then for the y, the midpoint is 5. And that's going to equal to the y value given, which is 0 plus y2 divided by 2. And now I'm going to go try to find this y value and this x value. Again, those are the endpoints. So just take a look at that so you know how I did the problem earlier with finding the midpoint. All right, so the key to this is just multiply both sides by 2 for both equations. Yeah, that gets rid of your 2 in the bottom. And so when I do that, I have 0 equals 3 plus x2. Subtract the 3, you get x to be negative 3. So that's my x value for the endpoint. For the y, I'm going to multiply by 2 again. I get 10 equals 0 plus y2. 0 means nothing, so y2 equals 10. So my endpoint with the other endpoint of 3, 0, my endpoint will be negative 3, 10. That's the other endpoint. Again, the emphasis is that you are now putting these values, which are right here. This is your midpoint. They're going to be up here. You have those, and you're trying to find the x and y. All right, folks, you got some problems to try. Good luck.